Before you toss that Washington quarter into a vending machine, pause for just 1 second, because right now, sitting quietly in your pocket, your car, maybe even in that old dusty jar at home, could be one of the most worthy and shockingly valuable Washington quarters ever struck. These aren't ordinary coins. They are mistakes of history, icons of rarity, and treasures that most people walk past every single day without realizing their true worth. And today, we dive into the top 3 Washington quarters that can transform an ordinary 25 cents into a collector's jackpot. These coins have changed lives, surprised experts, and proven that real treasure doesn't always hide deep underground. Sometimes it hides in your spare change. So, get ready, because the quarter you're holding right now might be worth far more than you ever imagined. The history of the Washington quarter in 1979 begins with the roots of the series itself, which was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design by sculptor John Flanagan featured a left-facing portrait of Washington on the obverse, while the reverse showed the heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, a symbol of national pride and strength. By the time 1979 arrived, the Washington quarter had already become one of the most familiar and widely circulating coins in the United States, known for its consistency, durability, and everyday usefulness. The year 1979 stands out as a point in modern coinage when the U.S. Mint was transitioning toward more efficient production methods, adapting to changing metal compositions, and meeting the needs of a growing economy. In 1979, the Washington quarter continued to be struck in the copper-nickel-clad composition first introduced in 1965 after silver was removed from regular circulation coins. This clad composition used an inner core of pure copper surrounded by outer layers of copper-nickel, giving the coin its recognizable silvery appearance while reducing production costs. The shift away from silver more than a decade earlier had stabilized by 1979, but collectors and the public still often compared the sound weight and shine of clad quarters with the earlier silver versions. The 1979 quarter remained part of the long-running series, where millions were minted and quickly spread into commerce across the nation. During this year, the U.S. Mint operated at 3 primary locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Denver struck the bulk of the circulating 1979 quarters, while San Francisco focused on proof coinage for collectors. The Philadelphia Mint coins carried no mint mark. Denver coins displayed the D mint mark, and the San Francisco proof quarters featured the S mint mark, the Philadelphia. Mint produced hundreds of millions of these quarters to support heavy daily demand in trade vending, transportation, and general commerce, making the 1979 issue one of the more common dates in the modern series. The design used in 1979 remained faithful to Flanagan's original work, though subtle modifications had occurred over the decades, such as changes in rim thickness, relief, and sharpening of details to improve striking clarity. These changes were often the result of updates to minting technology and routine die refinements, not major redesigns. The obverse portrait of Washington continued to be iconic, representing leadership and historical legacy, while the eagle on the reverse reinforced national identity and tradition. The simplicity and symbolism of the design kept it popular among the public, even as collectors debated whether a new modern design should eventually replace it. Another aspect that makes 1979 interesting is the broader coin-collecting environment. Of the late 1970s, when collectors were growing more enthusiastic about varieties, errors, and small differences in coins, minting quality during the decade was sometimes inconsistent, leading to minor variations in strike sharpness, coin alignment, or die wear. While the 1979 quarter is not known for major dramatic varieties, collectors often look for strong strikes, proof-like surfaces, and high-grade examples in mint-state conditions. Quarters from circulation typically experienced heavy wear, making high-grade survivors more desirable, especially those with clean fields, strong luster, and minimal contact marks. Proof coins from 1979 struck at the San Francisco Mint were made using polished dies and planchets to achieve a mirror-like finish. These coins were sold in annual proof sets and became favorites among collectors due to their sharp details, frosted devices, and brilliant reflective surfaces. The San Francisco Mint placed emphasis on quality control for proof production, which resulted in beautifully produced examples, though occasional imperfections or cameo strength differences still attract collector attention today. Because proof coins were not meant for circulation, they represent the highest quality version of the 1979 Washington quarter. Economically, the United States in the late 1970s faced inflation, rising costs of living, and changes in consumer spending, which impacted the demand for circulating coinage. The Mint increased quarter production to keep up with vending machines, transportation systems, and everyday transactions. The 1979 quarter therefore reflects a period of growing reliance on coin-operated systems in American life. From payphones to bus fares, laundromats, and parking meters, the quarter became one of the most heavily used denominations, and the Mint responded with large production numbers to meet national needs. From a historical perspective, the 1979 Washington quarter also sits at the threshold of major coinage changes that would unfold in the following decades. Just 2 decades later, the reverse of the Washington quarter would change dramatically with the introduction of the state quarters program in 1999, making earlier issues like the 1979 quarter part of a long era of the classic eagle reverse collectors today. Look back at these pre-state quarters as the traditional style coins that defined American currency for over 60 years. In terms of rarity and value, most 1979 quarters hold their face value in circulated condition because so many were made, but high-grade Mint state coins certified by grading services can command higher premiums. Coins graded MS-65, MS-66, or above are less common due to contact marks, bag handling, and normal minting practices. Even more valuable are high-grade proof coins with strong cameo contrast from San Francisco, which appeal to serious collectors who seek visually striking examples. Although not a rare date, the 1979 quarter plays an important role in understanding the evolution of the series and the standards of modern minting. The legacy of the 1979 Washington quarter is rooted in continuity, technological progress, and nationwide utility. It represents a time when the Washington quarter stood as a stable and trusted coin used by millions every day, while also maintaining a quiet presence in coin collections and mint sets. Its design, durability, and historical placement make it an essential entry in the timeline of American numismatics. For this documentary, this coin offers a rich story of history, production, design, public use, and collector significance, showing how even a common date like 1979 can reveal deep connections to American culture, minting traditions, and economic change. The story of the Washington quarter in 1979 becomes even more meaningful when exploring the deeper context of American coinage development and the way the Mint operated during that era. The 1970s were a decade of transition for the United States Mint, as it adopted more advanced machinery, automated processes, and improved die-making techniques. These improvements influenced the appearance, consistency, and durability of coins, including the 1979 quarter. Before this period, minting involved more manual oversight and slower production methods, but by 1979, the Mint was moving toward higher output efficiency and greater uniformity, which explains the enormous quantities of quarters that entered circulation that year. The story of the Washington quarter dollar of 1981 begins long before the coin itself was struck because its foundation is rooted in the evolution of American coinage design and the nation's desire to honor one of its most significant historical figures, George Washington. The Washington Quarter series first appeared in 1932, intended originally as a one-year commemorative issue to celebrate the 200th anniversary of Washington's birth. but its popularity and practicality led to its continuation as the regular quarter design. And by the time we reached 1981, the coin had already been in production for nearly 5 decades, yet each year had its own place in numismatic history, including 1981, a year significant for changes in the U.S. mint operations for the American economy and for collectors who pay close attention to mintage levels, condition rarity, and small details that make each year's issue unique. As we explore the Washington quarter dollar of 1981, we must understand the broader historical context. The United States in the early 1980s was undergoing major economic challenges. High inflation, unemployment, and rising interest rates were shaping the financial environment, and coinage production decisions were influenced by these national circumstances. The mint was adjusting to changes in demand for circulating coins, and 1981 became a year where production patterns were different from surrounding years. The Washington quarter design itself remained consistent, still featuring the left-facing bust of George Washington, created by sculptor John Flanagan, based on the famous Jean-Antoine Houdon bust from the 18th century. The obverse inscription included Liberty above the portrait In God We Trust to the left, and the date, 1981, below. The reverse still displayed the heraldic eagle with spread wings clutching arrows symbolizing strength and readiness for defense, and an olive branch symbolizing peace, along with the inscriptions United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and quarter dollar. One of the most important aspects of the 1981 Washington quarter is its relationship to the circulation needs of the time. The mint produced coins at the Philadelphia and Denver facilities for circulation, but it also created special collector pieces at the San Francisco Mint. Even though these pieces generally did not enter day-to-day transactions, mintage numbers reveal that demand for quarters in 1981 was strong, and the Philadelphia Mint struck a large number of coins using the P mint mark for the first time in history, because starting in 1980, Philadelphia began placing its mint mark on coins other than cents. The 1981 P quarter therefore belongs to the early period of visible Philadelphia mint marks, making it notable to collectors. The Denver Mint marked its coins with the D mint mark and played a major role in producing high-quality business strikes. Though millions of these coins were made, the survival of high-grade examples remains low, because most coins went straight into daily circulation, where they accumulated wear scratches and contact marks, making pristine mint-state examples more desirable. The San Francisco Mint in 1981 created proof versions of the Washington quarter. These proof coins were specially struck using polished dies and specially prepared planchets, resulting in mirror-like surfaces and sharp details. Collectors often examine 1981 proofs for the clarity of strike cameo contrast and the presence of Type 1 and Type 2 mint mark varieties. The Type 1S mint mark features a more bulbous shape, while the Type 2 is sharper and clearer with more refined edges. This distinction matters greatly for numismatists because the Type 2 1981S proof is far scarcer and commands significantly higher value in the collector market. Researching these varieties reveals how even small design changes in mint marks can shape the entire landscape of coin collecting and deepen appreciation for the craftsmanship of the mint. The composition of the 1981 Washington quarter was the same as in previous years since 1965, when the U.S. Mint transitioned from silver coinage to clad coinage. The 1981 quarter was made from an outer layer of copper-nickel, bonded to a pure copper core. This clad structure gave the coin its signature silvery appearance, but without the precious metal content earlier quarters possessed. The shift to clad coinage was crucial for the American economy because silver was becoming too expensive for circulating coins, and by the 1980s the mint had fully adapted to the copper-nickel composition, which proved durable, affordable, and practical for heavy daily use. Understanding this composition helps collectors differentiate between silver-proof issues and regular clad pieces, which is particularly helpful for new collectors, learning how to identify various quarter types. Another vital topic in the 1981 Washington quarter history is the condition, rarity, and grading standards. Collectors categorize 1981 quarters into circulated grades, uncirculated mint state grades, and proof grades. Mint state coins are evaluated on luster strike sharpness and the presence of marks or imperfections. A coin graded MS-67 or MS-68 can be extremely rare because achieving near-flawless surfaces on mass-produced clad coinage was difficult, especially during a period of high minting output. As a result, top-tier graded coins command high prices and are sought after by registry set collectors who compete to build the highest graded sets for each year. The value of the 1981 quarter can vary drastically depending on grade and mint mark, with the S-Type II proof and high-grade MS examples from Philadelphia and Denver being especially desirable. When looking at errors and varieties, the 1981 Washington quarter offers additional interest coins from this year, may show clipped planchets off center strikes, die breaks, and weak strikes, though major dramatic errors are less common because the mint had refined its manufacturing systems by this time. Still, some error pieces exist, and collectors enjoy studying them because they reveal insights into the minting process itself. Even minor errors can become noteworthy depending on scarcity and overall eye appeal, and some 1981 error quarters have gained attention at auctions where unique examples attract premium bidding. To fully understand the importance of the 1981 Washington quarter, we must place it in the timeline leading up to the 1982 and 1983 production years, which featured major changes. For example, the mint did not produce official uncirculated mint sets in 1982 and 1983 due to budget considerations which made high-grade circulation strikes from those years scarce. But in 1981, official mint sets were still available, providing collectors access to well-preserved examples, which, today, serve as an important source for obtaining high-quality 1981 P and 1981 D quarters. This adds extra historical weight to 1981 because it was the final year before the mint's temporary discontinuation of these sets, and therefore plays a strategic role in assembling complete Washington quarter collections. During the early 1980s, the Washington quarter was an essential part of everyday commerce. Americans relied on quarters for payphones, vending machines, parking, meters, and laundromats, and the 1981 quarter circulated widely across the country, becoming a familiar presence in pockets and cash registers. Although it may seem like an ordinary piece of currency, its place in daily life connects it to the broader social and economic story of the United States. Coins, like the 1981 quarter, serve as physical reminders of the era in which they were used, offering tangible evidence of national history and economic activity. As we move deeper into the historical significance of the Washington quarter dollar of 1981, we recognize that its legacy goes beyond mintage numbers, varieties, and condition rarity. It represents a continuing tradition of honoring George Washington as a national icon and preserving his portrait on one of the most widely used pieces of American coinage. The coin carries forward the artistic vision of John Flanagan and reflects the continuity of design that lasted until the State Quarters program began in 1999, marking the end of an era that stretched from 1932 to 1998. This long span makes each year, including 1981, a meaningful chapter in the story of American numismatics. In conclusion, the Washington quarter dollar of 1981 stands as a significant piece within the broader history of U.S. coinage. Its mintage patterns, clad composition proof varieties, mint mark changes, and role in everyday commerce all make it an important collectible and a fascinating subject for a long-form documentary-style narrative. Whether viewed through the lens of a collector, a historian, or a casual observer, the 1981 quarter holds a rich story that reflects the cultural, economic, and artistic evolution of the United States and its coinage system. The story of the Washington quarter dollar of 1982 begins with a broader journey of the United States Mint, its challenges, its evolving coinage system, and the long-standing tradition of the Washington design. The year 1982 is often remembered as a turning point year for American coinage because it was one of the rare years in modern times when the United States Mint chose not to produce mint-set coins or proof-set coins for collectors. This decision had significant effects on the scarcity appreciation and collector interest surrounding the quarters of that year. The nation in 1982 was experiencing economic shifts, rising costs of metal, rising production expenses, and financial pressure on various government departments, including the Mint. Because of rising operational costs and budget constraints, the Mint decided to pause the production of several collector products for the year. This meant that the only Washington quarters available from 1982 would be those released directly for circulation through banks rather than any specially prepared sets. As a result, high-grade examples of these coins became difficult to find, and over time collectors would discover the importance of the 1982 quarter in mint state conditions. The design of the 1982 quarter continued the long-standing tradition established in 1932, when the Washington quarter was first introduced to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Sculptor John Flanagan's portrait of George Washington facing left remained the central design on the obverse, while the reverse kept the majestic heraldic eagle perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches below, symbolizing both strength and peace. These elements reflected the ideals of the nation and the legacy of Washington as a leader whose values shaped the early United States. The 1982 quarter was struck at two mint locations, Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia Mint historically used no mint mark prior to 1980, but by 1982, the P mint mark had already become standard, so collectors could identify coins from Philadelphia with a P, while the Denver Mint continued to use the D mint mark. Both mints produced millions of these quarters, but because there were no mint sets or proof sets, a large number of the coins entered circulation quickly and were subjected to wear, making pristine examples increasingly rare. The composition of the 1982 Washington quarter followed the copper nickel-clad format introduced in 1965 after silver was removed from most U.S. circulating coins. The clad structure consisted of two outer layers of copper-nickel alloy bonded to a pure copper core. This modern composition allowed for more economical production compared to silver coins, and it also aligned with the Mint's goal of meeting the nation's circulating coin demands efficiently. In 1982, collectors and dealers began noticing that high-grade, uncirculated quarters from that year were significantly harder to find than those of surrounding years. The lack of collector sets meant that fewer untouched examples were preserved. This became even more evident in later decades when grading services like PCGS and NGC began receiving submissions from collectors seeking high-grade specimens, only to discover that true gem examples were extremely limited. The 1982 quarters in grades such as MS66 or higher became keys for enthusiasts building date and mint-mark sets of Washington quarters. As the year progressed, the Mint worked to balance production needs with economic concerns, and even though the 1982 quarter might not have appeared special at the time, it later gained recognition for its role in numismatic history. The scarcity of high-grade examples gave it unexpected appeal and made it a standout coin in the modern era. Beyond its numismatic value, the Washington quarter of 1982 also represents a chapter in the ongoing evolution of United States coinage. During the early 1980s, the Mint was exploring new technologies, updating machinery, and preparing for future design changes that would transform the appearance of American coins in later decades, including the State Quarter program launched in 1999, which revived massive public interest in collecting quarters. For nearly 50 years, the Washington design had been a familiar sight, and the 1982 coin continued this legacy while quietly becoming an important date for collectors. The simplicity of its design, its circulation-based production, and its connection to the economic realities of the early 1980s make it a fascinating subject for a long-form historical narrative. When examining the 1982 quarter closely, one can observe the sharpness of John Flanagan's portrait, the subtle details of Washington's hair, the curvature of the lettering, and the strength of the eagle's wings on the reverse. These artistic features, although common on earlier quarters, became harder to find fully struck and preserved in 1982 due to the limited survival of mint state examples. This made the study of die varieties and striking characteristics especially important for collectors searching for the best examples with early die states and strong details. As the years passed, interest in modern coinage grew, and the Washington quarters of the early 1980s became an appealing area for new collectors. Many realized that finding well-preserved examples of 1982 and 1983 quarters was far more challenging than finding those from the mid-1970s or late 1980s. The scarcity was a direct result of the Mint's decision to skip mint sets, a choice that unintentionally created modern rarities. Within the numismatic community, the 1982 quarter often serves as a reminder of how external factors such as budgets, economic conditions, and mint policies can affect the long-term availability of coins. What might seem like a routine year for coin production can turn into an unexpectedly significant one when viewed through the lens of collecting. Decades later, the 1982 Washington quarter stands as a perfect example. As your documentary progresses, you can highlight the broader historical context of the early 1980s in the United States, discussing inflation, increasing metal prices, and the nationwide focus on conserving government resources. This helps viewers understand why the Mint made specific decisions and how those decisions impacted everyday coinage. Another compelling angle for your 2-hour narration is the story of how collectors eventually realized the significance of the 1982 quarter. In the 1990s and early 2000s, as grading companies expanded modern coin submissions, the community began to see just how rare high-grade clad quarters truly were. The 1982 and 1983 dates quickly gained attention as collectors competed to find the best examples, and registry sets pushed demand even higher. Today, the 1982 quarter continues to occupy an important place in U.S. coin collecting history. It reflects a time of change. It carries a design rooted in national heritage, and it represents the unexpected impact of a single year without collector sets. The journey of the 1982 Washington quarter, from an ordinary circulating coin to a sought-after modern collectible, makes it a rich subject for detailed narration, perfect for a long documentary-style video,